In the celestial realm of Orun, where the Orishas dwell in eternal harmony, a great gathering was called by Olodumare, the Supreme Creator. The divine beings assembled in the sacred space known as Oke Igbeti, where important decisions concerning humanity and the cosmos were made. Among them stood Obatala, the Orisha of wisdom, purity, and creation, his white garments flowing like clouds against the ethereal landscape. Olodumare had observed the struggles of humanity on Earth, the realm called I. Mortals wandered without proper guidance, unable to understand their destiny or connect meaningfully with the divine forces that governed their existence. They possessed intellect and emotion, but lacked the sacred knowledge necessary to navigate life's complexities with wisdom and purpose. The children of Earth cry out for understanding. Olodumare's voice resonated through the gathered Orisha. They seek meaning in their suffering, direction for their choices, and knowledge of what lies ahead. Yet they remain blind to the patterns that govern existence, unable to read the messages we send through nature and circumstance. Obatala, whose calm presence brought peace to even the most turbulent discussions, stepped forward. His ancient wisdom, accumulated through countless eons of existence, had observed humanity's evolution from their first breath to their current state of spiritual confusion. He understood their need not just for divine intervention, but for a system that would allow them to commune directly with celestial wisdom. The other Orishas listened as Obatala spoke of humanity's potential for spiritual growth. Unlike other created beings, humans possess the unique capacity for moral reasoning and spiritual development. They could learn to interpret divine messages, make ethical choices based on cosmic principles, and even predict future events through proper understanding of natural patterns. What humanity requires, Obatala explained, is not simply our direct intervention, but a means by which they can access divine wisdom independently. They need a sacred system that will serve as a bridge between the earthly and celestial realms, allowing them to consult with us while developing their own spiritual ability. Chapter 2. The Divine Consultation. The assembly of Orishas engaged in deep contemplation of Obatala's proposal. Each divine being brought their unique perspective to the discussion, recognizing that creating such a system would require careful consideration of humanity's capabilities and limitations. The solution needed to be profound enough to contain genuine divine wisdom, yet accessible enough for mortal minds to comprehend and utilize. Eshu, the messenger Orisha who traveled freely between all realms, spoke of the communication barriers he observed between divine and human consciousness. Mortals often misinterpret our messages, he explained, because they lack a consistent framework for understanding divine language. Their emotions and fears cloud their perception of spiritual truths. Oya, the powerful Orisha of winds and transformation, added her observations about human nature. They are capable of great wisdom, but also prone to distraction and misuse of knowledge. Any system we provide must include safeguards to prevent the corruption of divine teachings and ensure that sacred knowledge serves the highest good. Yamoja, the nurturing mother of waters, expressed concern for humanity's emotional and spiritual well-being. The knowledge they seek must not only guide their practical decisions, but also provide comfort in times of sorrow and hope during periods of uncertainty. They need a system that addresses both their immediate concerns and their eternal spiritual development. Shango, the Orisha of justice and divine authority, emphasized the importance of maintaining cosmic order through any system they might create. Divine knowledge carries great responsibility. Those who access it must understand that wisdom comes with obligations to their community and to the maintenance of universal balance. Obatala listened carefully to each perspective, his serene wisdom synthesizing their concerns into a comprehensive understanding of what humanity truly needed. The system would need to be both practical and spiritual, immediate and eternal, accessible yet profound enough to contain genuine divine wisdom. I propose, Obatala said, that we create a sacred system of divination that will allow humans to consult directly with divine wisdom. This system will use symbols and verses that contain our teachings, providing guidance for both practical decisions and spiritual development. Chapter 3. The Sacred Design. Olodumare, having listened to the extensive deliberations, granted permission for the creation of this divine system. However, the responsibility for its design and implementation would fall primarily to the Orishas most suited for such a monumental task. Obatala, with his wisdom and connection to human consciousness, would lead the effort alongside other selected divine beings. The first challenge was determining how divine knowledge could be translated into a form comprehensible to human consciousness. The Orishas possessed understanding that transcended time, space, and individual experience, while humans were bound by linear thinking and limited perspective. The solution required a symbolic language that could bridge this gap. Obatala proposed using a binary system based on the fundamental duality that governed all existence, the interplay between opposing yet complementary forces that created balance in the universe. This system would use two basic symbols: a single line representing unity, clarity, and positive force, and a broken line representing duality, mystery, and receptive force. These symbols would be combined in groups of 4, creating 16 basic patterns that could be further combined to produce 256 distinct configurations. Each configuration would carry specific meaning and be associated with traditional verses containing wisdom, guidance, and prophetic insight relevant to human experience and spiritual development. The beauty of this system lay in its mathematical precision combined with spiritual depth. The binary foundation reflected the cosmic principle of duality that governed all existence, while the exponential combinations provided enough complexity to address virtually any human situation or question. The system would be both divinely inspired and logically structured. Epha would be the name of this sacred system, honoring the divine wisdom it contained and its function as a bridge between earthly and celestial consciousness. The configurations would be called Odu, meaning sacred signs, and each would carry multiple verses known as Ese Epha, containing stories, proverbs, and guidance relevant to human experience. Chapter 4. The Chosen Messenger. To implement this sacred system on Earth, the Orishas needed a divine messenger who could serve as the primary teacher and guardian of Epha wisdom. This being would need to possess profound spiritual knowledge, the ability to communicate effectively with humans, and the dedication to ensure that the sacred teachings were preserved and transmitted accurately across generations. Orun was chosen for this sacred responsibility. Known as the Orisha of wisdom and divination, Orun possessed unique qualifications that made him ideal for serving as Epha's earthly representative. His deep understanding of cosmic principles, combined with his compassion for human struggles, enabled him to translate divine wisdom into practical guidance that mortals could understand and apply. Orun Obatala addressed the chosen messenger. You will be known as Aleri Ipin, the witness to destiny. You have observed the creation of all human destinies and understand the patterns that govern individual and collective fate. Through Epha, you will help humans understand their own destinies and make choices that align with cosmic harmony. The appointment of Orun as Epha's guardian established him as the intermediary between human seekers and divine wisdom. He would not simply deliver messages from the Orishas, but would interpret and contextualize divine guidance according to each individual's circumstances, needs, and spiritual development level. Orun role would extend beyond divination to include teaching, healing, and spiritual counseling. He would train human priests, known as Babalawos, in the proper methods of consulting Epha and interpreting its messages. These priests would serve as earthly representatives of Orun wisdom, ensuring that Epha knowledge remained available to humanity across time and geographical distance. The establishment of this priestly tradition was crucial for Epha's preservation and transmission. Unlike systems dependent solely on written records, Epha would be maintained through oral tradition, with each generation of priests memorizing thousands of verses and learning the complex procedures for accurate divination. This approach would keep the tradition alive and adaptable while maintaining its essential integrity. Chapter 5. The Sacred Verses. The creation of Epha's sacred verses required the collective wisdom of all the Orishas, as each divine being contributed knowledge relevant to their domain of influence. These verses, known as Ese Epha, would contain the practical wisdom, spiritual teachings, and prophetic insights that made Epha consultation meaningful and transformative for human seekers. Obatala himself contributed verses dealing with wisdom, peace, patience, and the resolution of conflicts. His stories emphasized the importance of careful thought before action, the value of maintaining harmony in relationships, and the spiritual benefits of purity in intention and behavior. These verses would guide humans in developing character traits that align with divine principles. Each Odu would contain multiple verses addressing different aspects of human experience: relationships, career, health, spiritual development, family matters, and community responsibilities. The verses would include historical narratives, mythological stories, practical advice, and prophetic warnings, all designed to provide comprehensive guidance for navigating life's complexities. The language of these verses was carefully crafted to be both memorable and meaningful. They employed poetic devices, repetitive patterns, and symbolic imagery that would aid in memorization while conveying deep spiritual truth. Many verses included references to animals, plants, natural phenomena, and archetypal human situations that would resonate across different cultures and time periods. The verses also incorporated a sophisticated understanding of human psychology, acknowledging that people seek guidance not only for external circumstances, but also for internal struggles. They addressed issues of self-doubt, moral confusion, relationship conflicts, and spiritual uncertainty with compassion and practical wisdom. An essential feature of the verses was their multi-layered meaning. While they provided immediate guidance for specific questions, they also contained deeper teachings about cosmic principles, spiritual development, and the interconnectedness of all existence. This depth ensured that Epha consultation would remain relevant and revelatory, even as practitioners developed greater spiritual understanding. Chapter 6. The First Consultation. When Epha was finally ready for implementation on Earth, Orun descended to the realm of humans to establish the practice and train the first priests. The initial consultation would serve as a demonstration of Epha's power and establish the proper procedures for future divination sessions. The setting was a sacred grove where the boundary between earthly and divine realms was particularly thin. Orun prepared the space with appropriate rituals, offerings, and invocations to ensure that the consultation would be conducted with proper reverence and spiritual protection. The presence of divine energy was palpable as the first casting of Epha was prepared. Using 16 palm nuts from the sacred oak tree, Orun demonstrated the divination process that would become the standard method for consulting Epha. The manipulation of these nuts in prescribed patterns would generate the binary configurations that determined which Odu was being called and which verses would be recited for guidance. The first question posed to Epha concerned humanity's spiritual development and the challenges that would face those seeking divine wisdom. The response came through Odu Ogbe Meiji, the first and most senior of all Epha signs, indicating that this consultation was blessed by the highest divine authority and would establish important precedents. The verses that emerged spoke of the importance of maintaining spiritual discipline, seeking wisdom with humility, and recognizing that divine knowledge carries responsibilities to oneself and one's community. They warned against the misuse of spiritual power and emphasized that true wisdom serves the good of all rather than selfish interests. This first consultation established patterns that would guide all future Epha practice. The importance of proper preparation, respectful approach to divine wisdom, careful interpretation of the verses, and practical application of the guidance received. It demonstrated that Epha was not merely a fortune-telling system, but a comprehensive approach to spiritual development and ethical living. Chapter 7. The Training of Priests. Following the successful demonstration of Epha consultation, Orun began the crucial task of training human priests who would carry this sacred tradition forward. These first Babalawos would need to master not only the technical aspects of divination, but also the spiritual disciplines necessary to serve as effective intermediaries between human seekers and divine wisdom. The training process was extensive and demanding, requiring years of study and spiritual development. Candidates had to memorize thousands of verses, learn the complex procedures for various types of divination, and develop the intuitive abilities necessary to interpret Epha's messages accurately. This was not merely academic learning, but a complete spiritual transformation. Obatala himself participated in the training process, teaching the philosophical foundations that underlay Epha practice. He emphasized that priests must embody the wisdom they transmitted, living according to the ethical principles contained in the sacred verses. Their personal character would determine their effectiveness as spiritual guides and teachers. The training included instruction in multiple forms of divination beyond the primary palm nut method. Priests learned to use opal chains for quicker consultations, cowrie shells for certain types of questions, and various other tools and techniques that expanded their ability to access divine guidance under different circumstances. Equally important was training in counseling and spiritual guidance. Priests needed to understand human psychology, recognize the underlying issues behind the questions people brought, and provide not only prophetic information, but also practical wisdom for addressing life's challenges. They learned to be healers of both body and spirit. The establishment of proper protocols for training ensured that Epha knowledge would be transmitted accurately across generations. Each priest would train others, creating an unbroken chain of transmission that preserved both the technical knowledge and spiritual understanding necessary for authentic Epha practice. This system would prove crucial for maintaining the tradition's integrity across centuries of change. Chapter 8. The Spread of Wisdom. As the first generation of Babalawos matured in their understanding and practice, Epha began to spread throughout Yoruba land and beyond. Each community that embraced the tradition developed its own relationship with the divine wisdom, while maintaining the essential core teachings that Obatala and the other Orishas had established. The flexibility of Epha allowed it to adapt to different cultural contexts while preserving its fundamental principles. Local variations in language, customs, and spiritual practices were incorporated into the tradition without compromising the accuracy or power of the divination system. This adaptability would prove crucial for Epha's survival and growth across diverse populations. Trade routes and cultural exchanges carried Epha knowledge to neighboring peoples, who recognized the value of a sophisticated system for accessing divine guidance. The practical effectiveness of Epha consultation, combined with its profound spiritual teachings, created natural demand for the wisdom it offered. Wars, migrations, and the tragic period of the slave trade would eventually scatter Epha practitioners across the Americas and other regions, creating new centers of practice that maintained connections to the original tradition while developing unique local character. This diaspora ensured Epha's survival even when political changes threatened its practice in traditional homelands. Throughout this expansion, the core teachings remained consistent: reverence for divine wisdom, commitment to ethical behavior, service to community welfare, and the understanding that true spiritual development requires both knowledge and compassionate action. These principles provided stability and continuity as the tradition adapted to new environments. The spread of Epha also facilitated the preservation and transmission of other aspects of Yoruba culture, including language, music, dance, art, and social customs. The tradition served as a repository of cultural knowledge that might otherwise have been lost during periods of disruption and change. Chapter 9. Wisdom for Daily Life. One of Epha's greatest strengths was its practical applicability to everyday human concerns. Unlike purely philosophical or mystical systems, Epha provided specific guidance for the ordinary challenges that people faced in their daily lives: work, relationships, health, family responsibilities, and community involvement. The verses contained detailed advice on everything from agricultural practices to conflict resolution, from choosing marriage partners to raising children, from managing resources to maintaining physical and spiritual health. This comprehensiveness made Epha consultation relevant for people from all walks of life and all stages of human development. Obatala's influence was particularly evident in verses that dealt with patience, wisdom, and peaceful resolution of conflicts. These teachings emphasized that true strength lay not in domination or aggression, but in understanding, compassion, and the ability to find solutions that served everyone's highest good. The economic dimensions of Epha wisdom were particularly sophisticated, offering guidance on trade, resource management, and the ethical obligations that accompanied wealth and prosperity. These teachings recognized that material success without spiritual development was ultimately hollow and potentially destructive. Family relationships received extensive treatment in Epha verses, reflecting the understanding that healthy families formed the foundation of stable communities and individual spiritual development. Guidance was provided for navigating the complex dynamics of extended family systems, honoring ancestors, and preparing children for successful adult lives. Community leadership was another major theme, with numerous verses addressing the responsibilities and challenges faced by those in positions of authority. These teachings emphasized that leadership was a form of service requiring wisdom, integrity, and dedication to the common good, rather than personal advancement. Chapter 10. The Deeper Mysteries. Beyond its practical applications, Epha contained profound metaphysical teachings about the nature of existence, consciousness, and spiritual development. These deeper mysteries were gradually revealed to practitioners as they demonstrated readiness to understand and responsibly use such knowledge. The concept of destiny, or Ori, was central to Epha philosophy. Each individual was understood to have chosen their life path before incarnating, but this destiny was not rigidly fixed. Through proper choices, spiritual development, and alignment with cosmic principles, people could influence their fate and achieve their highest potential. Obatala's teachings on spiritual purity and wisdom were woven throughout these metaphysical concepts. He explained that true spiritual development required not only knowledge, but also the refinement of character, the cultivation of virtues, and the progressive liberation from ego-driven desires and fears. The relationship between individual and cosmic consciousness was explored through sophisticated concepts about the multiple aspects of human consciousness and their connection to divine awareness. These teachings provided a framework for understanding mystical experiences and spiritual development that was both practical and profound. Reincarnation and the continuity of consciousness beyond physical death were addressed through verses that describe the journey of the soul through multiple lifetimes. These teachings emphasized that spiritual development was a long-term process that extended far beyond any single incarnation. The interconnectedness of all existence was a recurring theme, with verses describing how individual actions affected the larger web of relationships that connected all beings. This understanding provided the foundation for ethical behavior and environmental stewardship that recognized the sacred nature of all life. Chapter 11. Challenges and Preservation. Throughout its history, Epha tradition faced numerous challenges that threatened its survival and integrity. Colonial pressures, religious conversion campaigns, modernization processes, and cultural disruption all posed serious threats to the continued practice and transmission of this ancient wisdom. Obatala's influence was crucial during these difficult periods, as his teachings about patience, wisdom, and peaceful resistance provided guidance for maintaining the tradition without compromising its essential integrity. Practitioners learned to adapt their methods while preserving the core knowledge and spiritual principles. The oral nature of Epha transmission, while making it vulnerable to disruption, also provided resilience against attempts at suppression. Knowledge carried in the minds and hearts of dedicated practitioners could not be destroyed by burning books or demolishing temples. This living tradition survived through the commitment of individuals who risked their safety to preserve sacred knowledge. Migration and diaspora, while challenging, also created new opportunities for Epha's growth and adaptation. Practitioners who found themselves in new environments often discovered that the universal principles contained in Epha wisdom remained relevant and helpful regardless of geographical or cultural context. The development of written records in modern times provided additional security for Epha knowledge, while raising new questions about maintaining the tradition's authenticity and preventing its commercialization. Scholars like Pierre Verger, Juana Elbein dos Santos, and Reginaldo Prandi made crucial contributions to documenting and preserving Epha wisdom for future generations. Contemporary challenges include balancing traditional practice with modern lifestyles, addressing gender roles and social changes, and maintaining spiritual depth in an increasingly materialistic world. These ongoing challenges require the same wisdom and adaptability that have characterized Epha throughout its long history. Chapter 12. Modern Relevance. In the contemporary world, Epha wisdom continues to offer valuable insights for addressing modern challenges, while maintaining connection to timeless spiritual principles. The ecological awareness embedded in traditional teachings has particular relevance for current environmental crises and the need for sustainable relationships with the natural world. Obatala's emphasis on wisdom, patience, and peaceful conflict resolution provides guidance for navigating complex social and political challenges. His teachings about the importance of character development and ethical behavior remain as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. The psychological sophistication of Epha verses offers tools for understanding and addressing mental and emotional challenges that affect contemporary people. The holistic approach to health and well-being contained in traditional teachings provides alternatives to purely medical approaches to healing and personal development. Global communication technologies have created new opportunities for Epha practitioners to connect across geographical boundaries, share knowledge, and support each other in maintaining authentic traditional practice. These connections help preserve the tradition while allowing for appropriate adaptation to contemporary circumstances. Academic research continues to reveal the sophistication and depth of Epha philosophy, contributing to growing recognition of African traditional religions as profound spiritual and intellectual systems worthy of serious study and respect. This scholarship helps counter historical misconceptions and cultural prejudices. The growing interest in indigenous wisdom traditions reflects a recognition that ancient knowledge systems offer valuable perspectives for addressing contemporary challenges. Epha's comprehensive approach to spirituality, psychology, ecology, and ethics provides resources for individuals and communities seeking meaningful alternatives to purely materialistic worldviews. Chapter 13. The Eternal Teaching. As we conclude this exploration of Epha's origins and significance, Obatala's eternal teaching emerges clearly. True wisdom lies not in the accumulation of information, but in the development of character, the cultivation of compassion, and the dedication to serving the highest good of all beings. The sacred verses of Epha remain as relevant today as when they were first revealed, because they address the fundamental aspects of human experience that transcend time and culture. The questions people bring to Epha consultation, seeking guidance for relationships, career decisions, health concerns, and spiritual development, are the same questions that have always concerned human beings. Obatala's gift to humanity through Epha was not merely a divination system, but a comprehensive approach to living that integrates practical wisdom with spiritual development. This integration recognizes that true success must encompass both material well-being and spiritual growth, both individual fulfillment and community harmony. The preservation and transmission of Epha wisdom requires each generation to embrace the responsibility of maintaining this sacred trust while adapting to changing circumstances. This balance between preservation and adaptation reflects the dynamic nature of wisdom itself, which must remain alive and relevant to serve effectively. For those who approach Epha with sincere seeking and humble hearts, the tradition offers not only guidance for immediate concerns, but also a path towards spiritual development that can transform both individual consciousness and community relationships. This transformative potential represents Obatala's greatest gift to humanity. The study of Epha, whether approached from academic, spiritual, or cultural perspectives, reveals the sophistication and depth of African traditional knowledge systems. This recognition contributes to a more balanced and accurate understanding of human intellectual and spiritual achievement across all cultures and traditions. As humanity faces unprecedented global challenges requiring wisdom, cooperation, and spiritual maturity, the teachings of Obatala and the Epha tradition offer valuable resources for developing the consciousness and character necessary to create a more just, peaceful, and sustainable world for all beings. Thank you for joining us in exploring this profound wisdom tradition that continues to guide and inspire people around the world. The teachings of Obatala and Epha remind us that true knowledge serves not just personal advancement, but the spiritual evolution of all humanity. Share in the comments where you're watching from, and how these ancient teachings resonate with your own spiritual journey and understanding of wisdom.